Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our at the rise of Recommerce and the circular economy. My name is Shalina Begum. I'm the Northwest editor for the Business Desk and your chair for this session. So Recommerce is not entirely a new concept. People have been buying and reselling used goods for many years, whether that's been at car boot sales, to donating items to charity shops, to selling on eBay, Gumtree, and even Facebook Marketplace. But it also goes beyond retail to other sectors such as energy, utilities, and infrastructure. This sector has not only grown over recent years, but consumer behavior towards it has also changed as they're increasingly looking to reduce their own consumption and have a positive impact on the environment and their pockets too. So this session is going to be split into two parts. We're going to kick off with a chat with Steve Oliver, the founder and chief exec of Music Magpie. From selling DVDs and books to iPhones and iPads, this Stockport born and bred tech business has been at the forefront of the global re-commerce market for more than a decade, and its green agenda has won over plenty of investors when the company IPO'd in April. So Steve, welcome.
Hello, Shalina. How are you?
Great, nice to have you on board, Steve. I'm going to just quickly start a recent event. Music Magpie has, it's been in the news recently when the world had its eyes on the G7 summit and a sculpture of the G7 leaders shaped like Mount Rushmore, made of electronic waste. And you have something to do with that, don't you, Steve?
We did. We commissioned it, yeah. So it was an idea, actually, that we formed about 8 weeks before, but it was a global awareness campaign to raise the publicity for the global e-waste problem that exists that actually people don't really understand. So we found that 4 out of 5 Britons didn't really understand even what e-waste was and what the problem was and why they should be doing something positive with it. So as you say, we formed this idea of forming an amazing piece of sculpted art. We worked with Joe Rush, who's an artist who's done stuff at Glastonbury previously, and formed this Mount Recyclemore made out of 20,000 pieces of e-waste. It weighed about 12 tons. We built it on a little cove called Sandy Acres next to Carbis Bay when the G7 leaders were there. And we raised some amazing sort of publicity and just that word awareness, really, for the problem of global e-waste. 50 million tons of global e-waste per annum. And that's forecast to double by 2050 if we don't intervene. And a lot of people say, well, what's the problem with e-waste? Well, it's obviously precious minerals and ores that we're throwing away. So in the case of a mobile phone, we're throwing away some really precious metals like gold and silver and platinum. But also, I found out a couple of years ago, just seeing my torches on, can highlight myself, that we are also throwing away mercury and lead and arsenic into the ground if we don't recycle our mobile phones. So yeah, we were really just raising awareness whilst the G7 leaders were literally in the next bay.
That's why businesses like Music Magpie is really important. It's this recycle agenda is at the heart of your business, and not only is it consumers are aware of it, but it's having that direct impact on the environment as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what's really interesting, Shalina. It's always been at the very heart of our business. So from, as you say, 13 and a half years ago, when the clues in the question with Music Magpie, we started with CDs and DVDs. We added games and books, and now we're in consumer technology. But it was only a few years ago, really, that we started to realize that it resonated, the message resonated about doing something smart for the planet. And indeed, that is now our strapline for the business, smart for you, smart for the planet. So if you're selling to us, fixed valuation, free logistics, but you get paid. So we're trying to make it all as easy and trusted as possible to sell. And actually, a few years ago, somebody told me that Recommerce stood for reverse commerce. So the process of making it as easy to sell to a website as it should be to buy from one. So that's Recommerce in selling to. But also, it's that doing something smart for the planet. And now, we've brought green into our logo. We've changed that strap line. And it really resonates with consumers just how important that sustainability aspect is.
Yeah. And it wasn't just consumers it resonated with investors as well when you IPO'd in April.
Yeah,
And
I guess no surprise that investors have followed consumer trend and, especially young consumers, millennials, etc. And from the first meeting with investors, really, and obviously a lot of investors are forming specialist ESG funds, where they place sustainability at the heart of it. But when we talked to LSE, they told us they have an accreditation called the Green Economy Mark for businesses that have more than 50% of their turnover from sustainability sources. And while ours was nearly 100%, so we said, look, we hope we qualify. And he said, you do. But that was really helpful to go and talk to those institutional investors who, again, they like the service and the smart for the consumer, whether it's raising cash or buying branded product for a fraction of the price that we've refurbished. But they really like that kind of ESG sustainability quality that the business has.
yeah, and do you feel like consumers are also interested in buying from brands with strong ESG credentials?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, we've got 2 or 3 really nice graphs, as you might expect, in our investor pack about the growth of ethical spending and people's attitudes changing. I've observed in the 13 years, I think I'll use the word second-hand because I do these days. We've never used to even use the word second-hand because it was always regarded as a bit nichey and almost, dare I say, a bit grubby. Well, it's something second-hand, and is it going to be okay? Will it work? And well, we put a 12-month warranty on everything that we sell. We refurbish it to as good as new condition. And I think really there's been that acceptance of actually it's a mainstream activity. And even now, really, it's something that consumers will feel good about, feel smart about, tell their friends about, because they know they've done something savvy for them and good for the planet. So it's been really just accepted as this sort of mainstream activity now, whereas once upon a time, it was a little bit nichey.
And you sort of mentioned a bit earlier, start making it easy for consumers to be able to buy products like that. And you've got quite a few initiatives, haven't you? You've got the kiosks at the supermarket, and then you've launched a new initiative where you can rent a phone as well. Just tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I guess this is part of sort of, good business practices to constantly look to disrupt yourself and move forward. And, all those cliches, if you stand still, you're moving backwards. So we operate, a trading service that we try and make as easy as possible. So let me start with the kiosk for a moment. What we realized is that our biggest competitor was still people doing nothing. It was apathy of, I'm ashamed to say I went in my electricity cupboard at weekend and found 3 old phones. I was like, oh my gosh, where have they come from? But we've all got phones and old consumer tech lying around. £16 billion worth, by the way, in UK households alone. So if we can make it even easier to recycle it and sell it and get some cash, and we manufacture this smart kiosk now that we've designed. We're working with Asda. We've rolled it into 25 different Asdas, and it's been received really, really well. Basically, you can get cash for your old mobile phone to spend in store that day. So obviously, it's alternative currency. You can literally pay for your shopping that day. You can sell your phone in about 3 minutes using one of these kiosks. So we're now looking to roll those out nationally. So that's really evolving the acquisition model for the business. And then, as you mentioned, Shalina, we've developed this sort of new disruptive income model. I know lots of businesses, and again, it's talking to consumer trend where ownership is less important. And youngsters, again, in particular, are happier and happier to subscribe and rent their product. So, we're doing an iPhone now for as little as $6.99 a month, free upgrade at the end of a year. Or if you want to keep the same device, we'll reduce that monthly cost for you. So, yes, we try and make the product as accessible as possible with the outright purchase price, much cheaper than a new one. But actually now you can do that rental. And as I say, anything between £6 a month and £20 a month for a really good refurbished iPhone with a 12-month warranty. So, and again, consumers, it's them that matter. We listen to our customers and the reaction to it has been overwhelming. Both of those receive really well.
Yeah, I guess it's quite important about this affordability as well, because not everybody can afford a brand new iPhone or Samsung. And it's making sure that people across the UK have access to that at a price that they can afford, I suppose.
Absolutely. I think the business has always been about that with, selling product. We all know a new iPhone now is significantly more than £1,000. I always think it's ironic. You're paying twice as much for a screen that big than you do for a new TV that's 60 inches these days, over £1,000. Well, our average selling price is more like £250, £300 for a refurbished iPhone. And now, as I say, make it even more accessible by doing a rental deal for a year. Been very well received.
How much tech is actually recycled through Music Magpie, and how much are you saving from going to landfill?
So at last count, and I really should stress, it wasn't Music Magpie equipment that was at fault for the gremlins there. We are giving a second life to just shy of 500,000 units, consumer tech units alone at the moment. Nearly 96% of those are directly resold back to a consumer. The small remaining balance are broken down and used for parts and used in the refurbishment of the balance of that. And I will also just make a quick reference to the old legacy products of Music Magpie. We still do CDs and DVDs and games for anybody who's still got any or buys any, and also books. And we are recycling and giving, again, a second life to 2,500 tons worth of course, mainly plastic. If you think about what CDs and DVDs are, that's the equivalent of 200 London buses worth of weight that could have ended up in landfill. So, those two elements to it are right at the heart of the sustainability qualities of the business and trying to answer that global e-waste. It is something ludicrous, like less than 20% of phones are currently recycled in the UK. As I mentioned before, people's apathy is the biggest problem we come across of, I might just need that phone if mine doesn't work and I'll put it in the drawer with the 10 others that are already there. Well, no, get them out the drawer and do something good for you. Maybe raise a few pounds. You can donate the money to charity and do something smart for the planet.
Yeah, and you've also got a business in the US, Declutter. How does the UK differ from your consumers in the US? Are we a bit more savvy when it comes to recycling and giving our phones back?
Yeah, less savvy. Actually, in some ways, they're slightly behind where we are in the UK. I guess, a few years of Trump pulling out of climate treaties and things like that possibly didn't help. But actually, again, and most Americans are leaving old product in drawers, etc. If they don't, what they're doing is generally selling it back to their network. So in the States with a Verizon or Sprint, which is something that's growing with our networks in the UK. But in terms of actually physically recycling your phone with a specialist trade-in outlet, they are very significantly behind. There is a kiosk solution. We're looking to take our kiosk over there, which again is trying to make it easier for US consumers. But no, slightly behind in terms of market dynamics.
Right, brilliant. That's great, Steve. Well, thank you for your time there. Steve's going to stay on and we're going to bring in the rest of our panelists. So can I introduce everyone firstly to Helen Lord, who is founder of Used Kitchen Exchange, Dr. Marie Griffiths, who is reader and director of the Centre for Digital Business at the University of Salford, and Alex Guzlisti, who is founder of Big Atom. Welcome, everyone. So this is a question for all our panelists. Would you say consumer attitude has changed when it comes to buying refurbished goods? And do you think that is accelerating change when it comes to the circular economy? And can I start with you, Helen?
Okay, yeah, obviously our business is all about Recommerce, so very much agree with that statement. I do believe that the customer is fundamental, front and centre of everything we do when it comes to Recommerce. I was listening to Steve's journey when he was talking, and our story is quite similar to Steve's in that Recommerce really is all about what the customer wants, and if you can provide that, then you've got a viable and sustainable business. So, but it does depend on your product and how much, all of it that you can sell or part of it.
Thanks.
For us, it's all of it.
Right, thanks, Helen. And can I move on to Marie?
Because I'm just I'm not haven't got a business like Helen or Steve, or I should imagine Alex. I suppose when we were talking to businesses on a personal level, I don't know if that is reaching to all businesses, or how there's lots of businesses not able to possibly bring Recommerce into their business model, or in fact know how to do that. So I think there's a lot of learning to be done. Also, an awareness with consumers. There's a stat there that I just picked up I was doing this with the students last week, and 85% of textiles of bought textiles go back into a landfill within the year. So there is a lot of learning there's a lot of learning needed out there for business owners and for consumers, I would say, really.
Thanks, Mary. And Alex?
So I think in our industry, it's a slightly different situation, and predominantly because we recycle tires at the moment, and safety is quite a big factor. So actually, second-hand tires, or part-worn tires, as you may call them, does have a safety implication, which is actually why Big Atom and what we do is beneficial to the society. And the vision really is to take that plastic waste or rubber waste and turn it back into the raw materials that were used to manufacture these products. And then when you take end of life consumer product and bring it all the way back to its raw material, you're able to produce something which actually doesn't reduce the quality. So Steve mentioned some good points, and I'm particularly interested in what exactly they do with the plastic that you recycle and how that gets recycled, because the technology that we're building would be able to do it on a large scale, and hopefully more efficiently, and recycle it into products which don't suffer in quality.
Would you take that, Steve? What do you do with your plastics?
Well, we should talk, Alexander. As I say, most of what we're buying from consumers, we are refurbishing and giving a second life and reselling it. So we've resold for many years on Amazon and eBay, and now increasingly so on the Music Magpie store. But in the refurb process of maybe changing the cases, we obviously do recycle them responsibly. And I understand I've got a list somewhere in my office of where each of the components goes, and it's like car headlights and I think the black DVD cases go into road surfaces, I believe. And something ends up in the paper cups that you perhaps get slightly less so now at the water coolers. But back to the main question, really, of the circular economy. I mean, I think we've seen some of the world's biggest brands have woken up to the circular economy and Recommerce. So, we've witnessed in the last year or two in fashion, H&M have launched a very significant Recommerce scheme. Levi's are doing it with their jeans, where they'll pay for the old jeans to come in. There's lots of talk about denim fibers being found in rivers these days, etc., as well as plastic. So, but also in furniture. So IKEA have launched a big scheme in terms of, don't go and throw your old furniture out, bring it back to us. And I think there's this fascinating Magpie Circular, as we've called it, is this software and logistics solution that we're offering any brand or third-party retailer, where they can do two things when selling something new. They can buy back the old product, which gives the consumer effectively a discount. So when selling a new iPhone or a new branded product, whatever that product might be, a pair of jeans, they can give the customer a discount by buying back their old one, which they don't want anymore. And that also provides both the retailer and the brand and the consumer a really sustainable, friendly solution to what's going to happen to that old product. It allows them to control the secondary market for that product and ensure it's dealt with responsibly. So I think all the world's biggest brands have woken up to the importance of many of them have. We work quite closely with Apple, and they are very, very, sustainability is top of their agenda. They're very focused on buying back the old model when they sell a new one now for that very reason.
That's a proper end-to-end solution, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, and Maria, I see you sort of agreeing to that. Are you seeing similar trends with businesses that you've been speaking to?
I'm just thinking that's a great service that Steve, that Magpie or yourselves are offering. That's a solution for different, because I think that a lot of businesses would like to get involved in that, and probably SMEs. But there is that sort of level of learning. But if you're providing a solution like that, that seems, that's a fantastic solution.
Yeah, Marie, because a lot of it is in the valuation of that product, because sometimes it's a bit of a challenge because there might not be much commercial value in that product that they're buying back, but very often there is. For years now, an electronics retailer, when selling you a fridge, said, "Oh, well, if you give us £30, we'll come and collect your old one." And you went, "Okay." There might not have been anything wrong with it. So if we can provide the technology solution to value that item and the channels to both refurbish it and resell it, that's quite, as you say, thank you for saying it, Marie, but it's quite a valuable service to the retailer or the brand, we hope.
Yeah, that's great.
It seems like innovation is playing quite a big, strong part in this. And Maria, are you seeing, how tech and innovation is playing a role in the circular economy?
It's what, sorry?
Are you seeing in how tech and innovation is playing quite a strong role in the circular economy?
I think it's basically tech is providing a platform for people like Magpie to come and use. I mean, without those platforms, back in the day, I remember, you go along to the high street and sort of, rent, you wouldn't be buying big sort of white goods or those type of goods, you would rent them, and we'd look to be flipping back to that. But now we're in 2021. Technology is those platforms are the way that people can, the sharing platforms like eBay, all those different platforms, the auction platforms, Depop and things like that. That really is the sort of only platform, the only sort of game in town, really. So technology is definitely an enabler for organisations to try, to basically get into Recommerce. I mean, and I love the phrase as well, Recommerce.
That's Marie. Helen, I want to just come back to you. So your business is one of the largest e-commerce kitchen retailers, specializing in Etsy display and used kitchens, and you've just become, or you just received your B Corp certification. It's quite a big deal, isn't it, for your business? You're not just saying it, but you're doing it as well.
Well, we're the first kitchen company in the world, so forget the used bit or the Etsy display. We're actually the first kitchen company in the world to become B Corp. I'll have to say it's easier to do, guys, when you're smaller. So if there's anybody listening to this who's considering it, do it now. It's a long process. The journey took us about 1.5 years. Very valuable. But as importantly for our customers, it's actually resonated really strongly with them, and we've seen a big upturn in business since we've announced that. So it's been very good. Just going back to the comment that Steve made, I was really interested about the trade-in relationship with Apple. Trade-in has always been our route to market. If you consider a kitchen very often costs more than a car, even a posh car. So the kitchens we're selling can cost upwards of £200,000 to £300,000 when they first go in. So the route to market that I chose was to actually go and speak to the showrooms and offer a trade-in value against a new kitchen, mainly as a business enabler, so showing the benefit to them about trade-in. We're talking about much bigger numbers than yourself. So an average trade-in for one of our partners is around £10,000 because the quality of the kitchens that we sell is quite high. But it's actually been a chosen route to market, and to disrupt a very linear industry, it's been very, very useful because we're sending out a very strong sustainability message, but also we're a bolt-on service for them, which means essentially we're a wolf in sheep's clothing because we're selling their products but cheaper. But they welcome us with open arms because we facilitate a new kitchen for them. So it's been a chosen route to market for us, which I think is quite unique.
Yeah, we're talking about consumer behavior again. It doesn't bother them, does it? They're getting a high-end kitchen for a fraction.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, I think Steve's alluded to this as well in terms of is it's dirty because it's used. I mean, thinking about a used kitchen, we're actually looking at bathrooms at the moment, so just get your head around that one for a bit. But it is a viable business. But the used kitchen, it's about verification of what you're selling. So whether it's a CD or whether it's a kitchen, the consumer needs to have the confidence to buy. And that is a long road. That's a long road for a business. So where Music Magpie, Steve, you make it sound quite simple. I'm sure it's been a challenge. And there's been lots of grumbles and complaints along the way, and lessons learnt, process to try and say, well, that's been a problem, so we'll block that off. Yes, we've done that one, and then another one pops up. Would you agree?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, business and life is a roller coaster, isn't it? And full of learnings every day. Yeah, and obviously, having started in CDs and DVDs now, I don't want to downplay the refurbishment of one of those, but it's disc polishing, case changing, etc., to the refurbishment now of an iPhone, a smartphone worth several £100, which starts at battery and screen, but then goes into the more sophisticated diagnostic stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's whichever sector you're in, there's those learnings, isn't there, of making it easier to sell, the refurbishment process, and then where best and how best to resell it.
Thanks, Steve. Moving on to Alex. So you hit quite a big milestone recently. You processed your 1 millionth tire, and that's quite a big milestone for the business, isn't it? And can I explain to people, Alex's business is more than just recycling tires. It's how that is then used in polymer materials, and then how that is then used further in industry. Just tell us a bit more about that, Alex.
Yeah, so I guess to make it relevant for the audience, up until now, what we've been talking about is really the reuse or you use the terminology of recommerce of consumer products, and I strongly agree that should be the first sort of step that we should try to do. Now, at some point, the consumer products will come to its end or become outdated and no longer feasible for the use within the society. So we're really that next stage of the company where our mission is to end polymer waste. And we're aiming to do that by, as I mentioned earlier, converting plastics and rubbers back into crude, which is originally made to produce that, and then using that crude to produce new consumer products without reducing the quality. Now, in terms of some of you might think, okay, well, how does tires fit into this? As an engineer, I tried to simplify our development of the process, and we decided to start with tires simply because they're fairly homogeneous in terms of the chemical composition. But the aim is, we're processing tires. The aim is to go into mixed plastics and really tackle the plastic waste on a global scale.
Yeah, and you also got plans to build a patented chemical reactor and testing lab. So you've got very big ambitions.
Yeah. So we have filed a patent for a pyrolysis reactor a few years ago, and we have been developing that in collaboration with University of Chester and UCL. We have received recently a grant from the UK government to build sort of semi-commercial scale of that reactor. So a lot of exciting things happening at the Gatton.
Great. Just talk about, how this is important for consumers, but then as a business, it's also important for the staff and the talent that you might recruit, and, a young person might be thinking about what that business stands for, and, who am I going to be working for, and what their values are. And as business owners, are you seeing that plays an important role in hiring that skill set? Steve, you?
Yes, absolutely is the short and sweet answer to that. But I think, again, we are in a competitive field, especially in the Northwest, where there's many wonderful tech and online businesses. I think although there's been this new dynamic where we're all, a lot of us now still working from home, and our talent is, but the values of the business. So our wonderful chief people officer who joined a couple of years ago helped me define them, because Magpie had always talked about what it meant to be a magpie, and nobody could really explain that properly. And when she asked me and said, what does that actually mean? I said, well, I've got two quick phrases. Magpies care and magpies make a difference. And I think, all of us on this call now are working within businesses where we care about not just our colleagues, our customers, but our community and our environment, and what the business is actually contributing to making a difference. When I talk to my girls, I talk to them about, make a difference in life, do something that actively contributes, and be a part of making things better. I think one lesson we've all learned from the pandemic is about being kind to each other, again, our communities, our neighbours, our families, our friends, etc. And we all learn that a bit more when we were apart, ironically. So I think if we can take those learnings, it's really important for the people. We sent out hoodies to everybody with better together even when apart. It's that concept of making people feel like they belong in an organisation. Dare I say, it's a bit cheesy, but in a family, that all our businesses try and make that their people feel part of a family. And I think since we've started defining it and communicating it, we've been so much more successful in not only attracting talent, but retaining talent, because they understand those values are absolutely core to everything that we do.
Absolutely. And Helen and Alice, do you feel the same with your staff? Are they, is that quite important to them, those values that your own businesses stand for?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very important aspect, and especially recently, or over the last couple of years, the momentum has really picked up in that field, and people started to care. I mean, and people go through different stages in their life as well. I've had one of my employees join after she had a baby, and she wanted to leave a better world. So she joined Big Atom because she doesn't want to make a difference. As Steve mentioned, actually, one of our values is leave a legacy. And we don't just mean that leave a legacy within Big Atom, leave a legacy by going through your career. So I definitely think it's an aid for our companies, to be in this field, and it does attract some talent. It's another way for us to attract talent.
Right, thanks, Alex. And Helen, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what everybody's just said. I also would just like to switch a little bit and say this is how our customers are feeling too. And I think what is really important to note is that any change, especially accelerated change, is normally done at a pivotal moment in society, whether that's a scandal with the Be Kind movement, whether it's the pandemic, the environment. All these things have come together in a perfect storm, in my mind, that have actually changed people's way of thinking. And this is what is accelerating the change. It's normalizing the things that haven't been normal up until this point. So this Recommerce thought process is becoming much more normalized for people. With regards to my own business, that understanding that little little bit of it has been absolutely pivotal. So rather than kind of saying, yeah, it's nice, but it's used, almost in an apologetic manner, now I'm like charging off with my banner going, yay, it's used, you know, and it's cheaper and it's better for the environment and you're going to love it. So I think this attitude change is a crest of a wave that businesses need to ride.
Yeah,
so it's not just about employees.
Yeah, and Marie, so you see the shift between young people who are thinking more about their attitude towards sustainability.
I can, and the experience that I've got with the students, and we teach, you know, they're in there. There is a change in narrative and where they're looking for their, you know, for their careers and what they want to. I mean, we spoke here about a legacy, and Steve said, "Oh, it might sound cheesy, but that's what younger people, or the, you know, our workforces, our future workforces are looking for. They're looking to contribute." And you can just tell that by, you know, what things they're looking at and what, you know, what's the hot topics they're discussing. You know, this sustainability, this environmental change, it has become, you know, it has become a big sort of disruptor for them, and all for the good, really.
And I guess they're more aware of it than maybe students were 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah, 10 years ago. I would say 10 years ago, maybe even smaller than that. Especially with, if you think about the school children are the activists now, and it's coming up, you know, it's coming up from the grassroots, from like way back down below. So hopefully that will sort of, you know, it's a ripple effect that will, you know, hopefully become a bit of a tsunami to.
And it might mean that businesses then have to change the way they do things as well.
Yeah, I think just looking at our three businesses here, representatives here, and with businesses we speak to, there is a big change, and that need to change to keep that talent, to it sort of, to, you know, to attract talent, and after that to keep talent.
Yeah,
I mean, there is a big sort of mindset change.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to our businesses here, it doesn't hurt your profits and revenues, does it? If anything, you know, probably helps drive that up. I know, Steve, you had quite a good 6 months recently as well. I think your revenues were up.
They are. Yeah, I mean, you know, the pandemic, we were a beneficiary from it. I nearly got sucked into using the phrase COVID winner and COVID loser, and I hate that because it suggests that, you know, the losers did something wrong. Very often it was just they were in the wrong sector, if it be hospitality or travel or entertainment, etc. But, you know, we did position ourselves as being here to help. So whether you wanted to sell because you were at home and declutter and get some cash for your own things and do something good for the planet, or buy, you know, new screen, we're all on screens now, and, you know, people are looking to stay connected, you know, Friday night Zoom quizzes with families, etc. So, you know, we were a beneficiary of it. I think also there's this just general shift online, and the challenges of the high street. You know, I grew up in a shop and I've got retailer blood very much flowing through me, but I've had to teach myself e-commerce. That's a, you know, a very changing, shifted dynamic. But yeah, we've been lucky enough to continue our growth. You know, we've pivoted into this new dominant product category of consumer tech. We've grown our US business in the last 2 or 3 years very much, and we've grown our own Magpie store, and there's future innovations, some of which you've heard about today, to come. So, and I think all of us, you know, it's our responsibility to ourselves, our colleagues, our shareholders, and, you know, obviously now sitting here, I have institutional shareholders for the first time, to continue to look forward and see how we can continue to grow. I think the key point is it can go hand in hand. It is not either or. You don't have to do just good for, you know, the planet, etc., at the expense of, you know, running a good commercial business that provides great service for customers. So, and I think those two things can sit very much hand in hand, you know, as we all look, I'm sure, on this call to grow our businesses.
Yeah, I mean, Helen, you're agreeing with Steve earlier. I think, you know, your revenues are also growing, and I'm assuming I might be wrong here, but with the pandemic and people renovating their homes, did you see a shift in sales?
Yeah, again, not something that I speak openly about very often, but yes, we have we have been, the pandemic was quite kind to us in some respects, in that our business really was a lucky find. So in the normal search for a kitchen, you go online and you go to shops and you do this, that and the other. And then when you can't afford or find the quality you want, you kind of find us as a lucky bonus at the end of a longer journey. During this time, we were able to reposition ourselves. So we were normalizing reuse of a kitchen. And the fact that supply chains closed down, the fact that our industry was closed during the main lockdowns meant that more people found us quicker. So yes, we're hoping it's there for good. It doesn't seem to be abating in any way, the growth, but we have had a little bit of a push from sad times. Yeah.
Excellent.
So you don't like saying it really, do you? But yeah.
I'm sure they'll find you a lot easier now for this session. So, right, well, we're running out of time now. Just one more question for all our panelists. Where do you guys see the circular economy going for maybe the sector you're working in, or for your own business? Do we see, what's your vision for in the next 12 to 18 months or a couple of years down the line? And Alex, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think 12 or 18 months in our sector is probably a little bit too short, but I certainly would like to see in 5 to 10 years time polymers really becoming part of this circular economy. And that quite a lot the term circular economy has been used in many different ways, and I think before we mentioned value. So for us to reduce polymer waste, we really need to reassign value, and once you assign value to it, it's not defined as waste anymore. So I would certainly like to see in the next 5 to 10 years that the plastic at the end of their life have value, and it's by being able to process that plastic back into raw material and therefore use that raw material for further production. Example I like to use, we don't, Steve, you mentioned precious metals in electronics. We don't throw precious metals into the ocean, do we? Because it has value. So I would certainly like to see polymers gaining, or for us to open the processes which will give the residual value to the end of life plastic products.
I think we'd all like to see that, Alice. Marie.
I think for, like I say, in a couple of years is quite short term, but we work a lot with businesses doing digital transformation and looking at their digital and planning a digital roadmap with them, and as part of their strategy. And more, we look at their business models, and more. I mean, I don't know if Helen, when she said it took her 1.5 years for her to go through this circular economy or the Recommerce stage, was that part of an overall transformation? And more we'll be looking at embedding some sort of aspects of the circular economy into the business model, because it's sustainable, and it's all, but also it has got this it's aspects of being, as long as you can put a cost to as long as you can put a cost and to make sure that's embedded into all the business processes, it should be really part of a digital transformation, and we'll be looking at that actually over the time. So yes, it will be embedded into some organisations that we're working with.
Thanks, Marie. And can I move on to Helen?
Yeah, Marie, we've just started our digital transformation. So we've just started a 2-year MKTP project.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, we have been told about something else that we've been awarded. It's a government programme, but I can't tell anybody yet because it's not been official, but it's really exciting. So Growth for Used Kitchen Exchange really is a multi-channel digital platform. Very different to how we are now, but it will encompass the whole of the KBB industry, which is kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms, and all household fitted furniture, because our business has to have a degree of know-how, and we now have that know-how because we've been working with the kitchens now for as long as we have. So we can roll out that model now to provide reuse of luxury fitted furniture from any home to another home. So
good luck with your KTP. That'll be because I do lots of KTP.
Excited.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely brilliant for you. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, sounds very exciting, Helen. And finally, Steve.
I mean, I think everything we've talked about, really, I think, listen, it feels like we've broken the back a little bit of this kind of acceptance of circular economy and people's awareness generally, and their willingness and appetite for ethical shopping and behaviour generally. You know, one of the simplest business enterprise things you'd learn at school is the Ansoff matrix of growth, and it's extending product categories down one axis and territories down the other, and that's something that Music Magpie's done, going to the US and going into consumer electronics. And I think, you know, we will look to continue expansion on both of those, probably more likely with product categories. But we have just joined, and this is really exciting, a circular economy partnership, which is 40 of the leading global brands for the first time have come together. We're a founding partner of that with Apple, with Google, many other electronics brands, Microsoft, etc., who all now are going to work together for the first time on growing the circular economy together and working at, you know, sustainability, what we do with our waste, etc. So the Mount Recycle More awareness campaign we did was, you know, really they used that as a headline image, which was lovely for us. But you know, I think that's representative of just the progress we've made in the last few years. I mentioned before some of the brands that are now, you know, actively offering a Recommerce circular economy solution, and I just see more of that. Let's get out there, you know, let's do something good for the planet together.
Right, thanks, Steve, and thank you to all our panelists today. That's definitely an interesting discussion. Quite an exciting time to be in Recommerce, and consumer behaviour is changing, and I think that's for the better. Thanks very much, guys, and please do stay on for our next session, which is looking at green finance. Thanks.